go with letter 19. It's a short one. Pliny to Maximus. Salve. Et gaudium to me, and a solace in letters. So, in letters or in reading, to me, there's a joy and a solace. For as nothing is so happy that cannot be latius, cannot be more happier by this, and nothing is so tristy, so sad, that it cannot be less sad through these, or this art, or these literature, or letters. Itaque. And so, at correlatives, both by the infirmity of my wife and in the periculo, the dangers of my own, vero, but even by the death, quorundum, there's a bit of slaves he was talking about the other day, I'm Tabatus, I'm a bit confused or moved, but to this one levimentum, to this thing that alleviates me of my pain, of my dolor, confuge. It looks like I flee off to my studies, or I'm able to go and things of studies which praise stand, which supply or offer it, so that intelligam I understand the adverse things more, but I shall bear. So it's a twofold reason, more patiently. So there's two things going on. He understands it, and also he can bear it more patiently. 2. Est autem. However, moreover, there is a morus, of amores. So there's a habit or custom to me that when I'm I'm about to give something into the manos, in with the accusative, into the hands of man, before to examine judicio amicorum. So they go into the judgment of my friends first, they should be examined, and in the first place, in primis, it should be you. So basically, he's published something, and it's his custom to let other people read it, especially his friends. So proinde, so therefore then, si quando, if there's some time or something. Now, intende, looks imperative, lean your attention or something to this book, which with this epistle, with this letter, Akippis you're receiving, because very or nay, it's a verb of fearing, nay in order inverted. So I fear that ipsi, so I've intended, and I've looked at it leastly, or badly, or not too well, parum, due to my tristis, due to his sadness that these things going on. He fears he didn't really look it over well enough. And then this letter, enim, 4, potui, that comes after the but to order my pain so that I should be able to write, or so, if you want to put it another way, if you can control his pain so that I'm able to write, I was able to, because it's a perfect, I was able to write, so that vacuo, with his empty time, I was not able to do it with a happy mind, lato animo. So he controlled his grief enough so that he was able to write, but he didn't have time to do it with a good and happy mind. So poro. Furthermore, as you get gaudium from studies, as you get your joy from studies, thus in this way, provenium, it helps to have your studies with a bit of hilarity or a bit of good cheer. Vale. Goodbye. Letter 20 of Book 8 to Galenus. Salve. Ad quae noscenda, some gerundive looking thing, so we can enter into a journey for when things we want to know, and we're accustomed to transmit across the sea. So we're accustomed to travel across the sea and enter in the journey so we can find out things, which posited under our eyes we neglect, so these things, if they're already in front of us, we don't regularly see them. Either because this is the nature comparatum, could be comparing, or procuring is probably something to do with comparing. If you compare what is proximum, the things that are nearby, we are incurious of them, and sectumur, we're pursuing things which are longinqua, which are further away. Or because Cupida, the desire to know all things, it languishes when easily there's an occasion for it, or there's a means to getting it. Or quod, because we defer such things, just as or probably because often we will see them. So we put off things like visiting our neighbours because we often see them or something. What is given quotidian? So we're able to see these whenever we want to, and there's the velis, which means whenever you want. Cernere means to see, and quotidian of time, so whenever. So you're given this opportunity to see these things whenever you want to see them. 2. Quae cum qui de causa. So whatever the cause or the reason, per multa, per just strengthened. So there are very many things in our city, nostra urbe, and juxta the urbem, and near the city, not only with our eyes, but ne quidem, not even with our ears, novimus we know, which if they had been toileted, if they'd been carried or born, what have we got, some countries, Achaia, I think that's Greece, Egyptos, Egypt and Asia, or Alia, or another place, Quae, whatever you want. Ferax usually means there's an abundant supply of miraculums, of miracles, and that the land is commendatrixing. Land is female and trix commonly is female. So whatever the land is recommending with its abundance of miracles. Audita, we've heard of them. Haberamus, that's the imperfect subjunctive, I believe. So we're perlected, we would have read about them and heard about them, and so we would want to lustrate them, see them with our own eyes or travel through them or something. And then 3, ipsi certe nupa. So myself, certainly and recently, a thing which neither have I audiorammed nor videorammed before. I haven't heard it or seen it before. Now I've audioed it, now I've heard it, and equally I've seen it. Exegerat, someone forced someone. My pro soccer. Your soccer's your father-in-law, so the pro soccer's your father-in-law's father, so your grandfather-in-law. He's forced me, or asked me more nicely, so that I would inspect his praedia in Myrina, his estate in Myrina. Hake, this thing, if it's single, or these things new to plural, were ostendated, so it's probably singular. This was shown, double dative, to me when I was perambulating, when I was walking about, alaicus. So this, what have we got? Lake subyacagensing. So it was lying under something, so it was lying under, I believe, hills, and this lake is by the name of Vedamonas. At the same time, certain incredible things were narrated also to me. 4. Paveni. I reached, takes an in or an ad, to Ipsum, this lake itself. Lacus, this lake is in the similitude to a rota, which is a wheel, which is lying there, and circumscriptus, and all around it, and undique on all sides, it is equal. So it's equal like a wheel, it's round. There's nullus sinus, no bay, etc. I'll just scroll a bit more. How far are we going today? Down to there. Okay, so there was nullus sinus, there's no bay in it, no obliquities, no slanting bits. Omnia, all of it in dimensions is pari, is equal, and as if it is cavated, caved out and exceeded, chiseled out artificially by a hand. The colour is albidior, it's whiter than blue, and it is viridior, and it's pressior. They're pressing on a little bit of green in it, so it's whiter than blue with a bit of green. It has the odour of sulphur, and the sapor, a taste, medicatus, so it probably doesn't taste good. Avis qua fractus solidanta, so there's a force in it which solidifies or reheals bones that are fracta. I guess it's bones, broken bones, that's why it's medical use for this water. Its spatium, its space is modest, quad tamen, which nevertheless it senses the wind, there's a bit of wind blowing, and it intumes, it swells up with waves. So a lot of small lakes wouldn't have waves, so it's modest size with waves and a bit of wind. 5. Nulla in this navis. So there's no ships. Ships are female, same as in English. They usually call boats she's. For it is Sacca, it's a sacred lake. But the insulae, there are islands that innatant, which swim in it or float in it. Pretty cool, islands to learn how to swim. Anyway, all the herbage is with hirandes, these are reeds and junco. I'm not a plant expert, it's some sort of sedge or something. And Other things are more fecundia, Palus in the marshy region itself, at the extremities of the lake, Efert. Okay, so Efert just means it's bearing, so I've set up Juncus here. Apparently it's a rush. And if you're not into plants, I've created another daily dictionary words from we saw earlier, the commendatrix regarding to the terror of the land, reference, one I recommend, so that the land was recommending that you see these things. Anyway, we're nearly done for the day. So, Cuiqui. To each one has its sua figure, it has its own figure and limits, its edges. Cunctus, with all of the margos, the edge or the edge of the island, they're derasus, they're a bit gnawed away, all of them. Cunctus means all of them, because frequenter, we'll take that as frequently, vel, correlatives, either to the shore or themselves, which is sibi, they eliso, they bashed against, and terrant, they wear away, and they are passive, they are worn away. So they wear away and are worn away by their frequent bashings against the shore and the other reeds or whatever the hell they are. Par omnibus altitudo, so it's equal to all of them in height, altitude's the height, par in the levitas, in the lightness. Quippy, we'll take that as sense. It doesn't look like Nempi Quippy, it looks like Quia Quippy. So in the appearance of a carina of the hull of a ship, humuli, must be talking about these reeds. The reeds descend down to their roots, very low, and there's descent that go down. So they have the appearance of the hull of a ship, so maybe they're V-shaped or something. 6. Hake from all laterae, from all sides, this is seen. So from wherever you look, the same parata equally are suspended in the water and Mercer. So looks like these reeds are equally above the water and below the water. Into them sometimes Juncta and copulenta, so both words of joining, and similar to continents they are. So these marshy islands might just be reed mats, just vegetative matter with reeds floating around if they're this fickle. Anyway, into them sometimes digerentur, they're split in different ways by discordant winds, by winds in different directions, and non numquam, which means sometimes. In the tranquil weather, it looks like they float in as singular masses, destitute. And 7, nearly done. Okay, so tranquil weather, they're singular, and they're tore apart in discordant winds. And 7, often the minor ones to the major ones, the small ones to the big ones, as if, here's at a heurescant, they stick to them as if cumbulas, very small skiffs, a cumbul by itself is small, this is a diminutive form of it, to the onerous. These are big, large cargo ships. So I guess sometimes you have little rowboats or something that stick to cargo ships, just like that, the small islands to the big ones, and often interstate amongst themselves, the majors and the minor islands, as if in a cursum, a foot race, there's a curtum contest, they desuma. It looks like they decide the race against each other, whatever. Rursus omnes. So again, all of them are a pulsae. They're pushed in, like you do with boats, into the same place, where pro movement, they move. Sternerant means they're strawn out on the land, so they're pushed into a little bay and in movements, and they stand over the land. And modo hack, and here, and modo illa, here and there. They moved off and they return to the lake, and finally are again. So it looks like the size of this doesn't move at all. It's just where the middle of the lake is, and non-contrived. They're not drawn together. Basically, what it's just saying, these things move about. Doesn't change the shape of the lake. Only where the middle of it is. That seems to be the main centre of that passage.